It feels very silly to try and plan for the future right now. Setting goals feels very futile in my mind because of the vast amount of uncertainty that we're all facing. It very much gives the world is ending, but I still want to be an astronaut. But I still identify as a tragic optimist. Despite my own disdain for the state of the world, I truly do have this drum within me that just beats relentlessly, insisting that I just keep going, right? So then I get to thinking, well, what type of future do I actually want for myself? I don't remember when my dreams started to fade, but I know that they definitely did. Since being a kid, I've always had my desires all over the place. I remember wanting to be a rock star primarily, but I also wanted to be a zookeeper and a dance teacher and an author and a tattoo artist. Then when I was a teen, I wanted to be a YouTuber really, really bad, which this one's for you, Lil Mary. I think it was around this time, though, the same time that I became politically aware, actually, that my dreams started to feel like childish desires instead of actual possible goals. Teenage angst coupled with coming to age under Donald Trump's first presidency felt like getting hit by a bus named reality. And then, while my body is crumpled in the street, I'm shat on by a pigeon named adulthood. College kind of put me in a state of survival mode as well. My adrenal system literally hardwired itself to act as if I was alone in the woods for 2 years. And then months before I turned 21, the pandemic hits. I'm still recovering from the mental damage that I suffered in 2020, as I'm sure we all are. That also happened to be the same year that I finally started sharing my original music. Really, it's more like I began to share my music because I had been so broken down by the world around me that I felt like it was the only way that I could prove to myself that I was still alive and I was still worthy of living. I rediscovered music as a method of genuinely expressing myself, letting my soul shine through a body and a point in my life that I was still very uncomfortable being in. I remember the feedback from people on my first Instagram posts, which was mostly from friends and family, of course. It was just always so positive and affirming in a way that I didn't know that I needed. I'd always known that I was meant to spend my time on this earth being creative, but for the first time in a while, I'd received the external validation for what this internal whisper had been telling me. Since then, the glimmer of hope for being a professional artist has slowly grown to a candle flame, and honestly, that's what's led me here. Now, obviously, I've done some growing since 5-year-old me first wanted to become a rock star. But last year in 2024, I also started to take music seriously, which really just means that I finally had the money, the time, and the connections to be able to create my first EP and even do a few performances. Now, I'm at a point where I want to grow. I've accepted the fact that this is going to take time, more time than I'm used to living, probably. And I've told myself that 10 years is the minimum investment that I have to give on this dream. In 2034, if we're still here, and if I'm not where I want to be, then I can quit. But until then, I won't quit. Well, that leaves me with the question of what now, right? Between now and then, what happens next? I am a conditioned planner, okay? I find comfort in being able to take things step by step, specifically if those steps are clear and I can look ahead. But unfortunately, I'm finding that life just doesn't work that way all the time. In fact, it doesn't work that way most of the time, especially not for something like a creative career. This partially comes from the fact that I haven't yet been able to identify measurable goals for my music. Winning a Grammy would be cool, but I don't know if that's something that I actually care about. For years, Hollywood has been the standard for creative achievement in the cultural zeitgeist, right? I grew up watching award shows, being enamored with the glitz and glamour. I kind of put those things on a pedestal, to be honest. I think most of us did. And with phrases like, if you can make it in Hollywood, you can make it anywhere. Our society has created these methods of validation, but just because there's a standard doesn't mean that I'm aligned to it. And I think more people are agreeing with this. And in fact, the current artists that I look up to are the people who dissent against these standards to the best of their abilities while also navigating their own ways to success. I think about Chappell Roan, who is a hot topic right now. And despite her recent Grammy win, she's candidly expressed that she recognizes the Grammys are just a showboat for rich people, and she actually used her platform to advocate for the industry to support artist wellness. She's not perfect, nobody is, but she made a couple points. You gotta be honest with that. Say what you want about her music or her persona even, but the girl stands on business and she flexes her sense of self-respect and walk-away power, which is a great term. I also think about cultural commentators, creators, and other internet residents who engage with pop culture and the growing discourse around whether or not commercial success could even be considered cultural success as well. There have been plenty of people and artists who have been platformed relatively quickly due to the age of social media, right? And we've definitely witnessed the pros and cons of that. Definitely witnessed that. But the point is, things are changing rapidly, and they always are. But it's hard to try and make a plan for my own success when the checkpoints are unclear and the original milestones are losing their relevance. For example, getting signed to a major label probably would have excited me at 18 years old, but now that I'm 25 and I've heard all the horror stories from signed artists, both big and small, coupled with my anti-capitalist beliefs, let's just say I'm not jumping to send a bunch of demos to labels. So, what are my dreams? Well, last night I actually had a dream where I met my younger self again, and she reminded me that all we ever wanted was to be free. And that's what I dream of. I want autonomy. I want to be able to create freely, and I want those creations to be appreciated by as many people as possible. I also want to be comfortable in life and enjoy a luxury here or there, but my definition of luxury may be different from yours, and that's okay. But right now, that's all I got, for real. I also have this idea of being a community-funded artist in the sense that, I don't want to have to get brand deals, or I don't want to have to charge an arm and a leg for, concert tickets just to be able to break even with both the record label and the ticketing companies, oligarchies. All in all, I want my supporters to be able to directly fund my art and thus also be able to get something out of it. For example, I think it'd be really cool if my music could work kind of like the stock market, where my fans, my supporters are the investors and the art itself is the investment. This way, music supporters can have closer ownership to their music that they consume, and I, as the artist, don't feel enslaved by an algorithm or a concept of marketability. And yes, I know there are so many logistical things about this idea that are not yet fleshed out, and I know that people are still going to be people at the end of the day, which could make this setup messy. But that's why this is a dream, right? And while we do have to sit in the messy reality of what things actually are, dreams give us insight as to what things could be. So I'm going to keep dreaming, and I hope you do too.